Here are 20 fascinating facts to astonish you. So let's get started. In the early days of his career, British actor Hugh Grant posed as his agent, under the name James Howe Ely, who he impersonated over the phone, speaking with a Scottish accent, negotiating the best deals, and saving him countless agency fees. A recent report based on 4 large international studies found that consuming chili peppers can decrease your risk of death from heart disease by 26%, by cancer by 23% and other diseases by 25%, when compared to those who never or rarely consume chili peppers. You can study footballer Cristiano Ronaldo at the University of British Columbia Okanagan. The 4th-year sociology course proposes that Ronaldo's appeal goes way beyond him just being a footballer and that he's a fascinating case to study. The course looks at how people talk about Ronaldo, what his identity is all about, and Ronaldo's impact on Portuguese people living all over the world. The mortar used to fill the gaps between the giant stones of the Great Pyramids of Giza is of unidentified origin. Even though its chemical composition is known, it cannot be reproduced and is stronger than stone. Because of this, it still holds up today and dates from 2540 to 2560 BCE. Babies are born without kneecaps. Their knee bones are made of cartilage, which is softer than bone. Kneecaps usually develop at around 3 to 6 months of age and start to harden at around 6 years old. This is why babies may crawl differently to older children or adults, and may appear to have bendy legs. To make the chainmail armor for the Lord of the Rings movie, more than 12.5 million plastic rings were made. 2 people on the crew spent a lot of time linking the rings by hand to create the suits of armor. By the time they had finished, the constant work had rubbed the skin off their thumbs and index fingers, and they had lost their fingerprints. Arnold Schwarzenegger, the Austrian-American actor, famous for playing the role of the Terminator, did not dub his own role in the movie to German because of his rural Austrian accent, as it would have been considered too ridiculous to have a killing machine from the future sound like a hillbilly. Despite this, Schwarzenegger's performance was still hugely popular in Germany and Austria due to his physical presence and robotic delivery of lines. The word limelight comes from the days before electricity, when stage lighting came from a flame directed at a block of quicklime to produce a brilliant white light, which was very bright and was used to highlight performers on stage. Even today, the term "in the limelight" is used to describe someone who was the center of attention or in the public eye. Steve Jobs suffered from compoundophobia, or fear of buttons, which influenced his wearing of turtleneck shirts and Apple's product designs, which are often buttonless. This design philosophy has continued in the later devices, which use gestures instead of buttons. In Florida, fireworks are illegal except for agricultural purposes such as scaring birds and fish. Despite this regulation, there are still fireworks stands and shops selling them. An owner of a fireworks shop requires customers to sign a waiver acknowledging they have reviewed Florida statutes and are at least 18 years old. The first cell phone was the Motorola Dynatac 8000X, or the Brick, and designed by industrial designer Rudy Kralip. It weighed 2 pounds and gave 30 minutes talk time from a full charge and was sold in the United States in April 1984 for almost $4,000, which would be $11,581.91 today. Dan Aykroyd, the writer, actor, and comedian, was born with webbed toes, different colored eyes, Tourette's, and Asperger's. He co-created the iconic film Ghostbusters, inspired by his interest in the paranormal and law enforcement. His life proves that with hard work, perseverance, and a positive attitude, you can overcome challenges and achieve great success. The drunkard's cloak was used to shame those who get very drunk, and was used from the 16th to 18th centuries in the UK, USA, Netherlands, and Denmark. The drunkard would be placed inside a large barrel with holes for their head and arms, and then paraded around the town while being publicly ridiculed and laughed at. According to an Oregon State University study, hops contain a chemical called xanthohomol that has positive effects on your intellectual function. This is a type of plant compound found in hops and beer that has been shown to improve mental function in young mice. However, you would need to drink 3,530 pints of beer per day to notice any results. The Snickers bar, made by Mars, was actually named after a horse that was owned by the Mars family. Frank Mars, the founder of the company, adored the horse and chose the name to honor it. The first fax machine was patented by Scottish clockmaker Alexander Bain in 1843 and 1848. This was decades before the telephone and when the telegraph was only about 10 years old. The first commercially successful fax machine dates from 1865. The tradition of brides standing on the left side of the altar actually dates back to the olden days when marriages were often done by capture. In those days, the groom had to keep his right hand free so he could use it to fight or fend off any rivals who tried to take away his bride. Cleopatra lived closer to the computer age than to the construction of the Great Pyramid of Giza, which was built around 2580 BCE. She famously committed suicide in 30 BCE. So we are roughly 461 years closer to Cleopatra than she was to the building of the Great Pyramid, a time when woolly mammoths were still walking the earth. Thomas Edison did indeed try to invent a spirit phone to contact the dead in the 1920s. Although most people thought he was joking, he genuinely wanted to create an ethereal device that would summon the living voices of the dead and record them for posterity. While there is no evidence that he actually contacted the dead, there is evidence that he experimented with the idea. According to a study, sitting for more than 3 hours a day can cut 2 years off a person's life expectancy, even if he or she exercises regularly. Watching TV for more than 2 hours a day can shorten life expectancy even further, by another 1.4 years. Thank you for getting this far, and please consider subscribing so you can keep being notified when new videos are released.